Next at 11, Tropical Storm Rita moving in our direction, now expected to become a hurricane overnight.
Live pictures here from Haulover Beach, already feeling the outer effects of Rita at this hour.
Huge piles of debris left over after Katrina are adding to the danger as Rita moves closer.
And some residents stacking sandbags. They're worried the storm could leave their neighborhoods submerged.
Good evening, South Florida. I'm Maggie Rodriguez.
I'm Rob Hanrahan. A special edition of CBS 4 News Tonight starts in 30 seconds.
Now live, this is a special edition of CBS 4 News, tracking Tropical Storm Rita.
And welcome back to our extended coverage of Tropical Storm Rita. This is a live picture here from Haulover Beach, where the wind has really started to pick up in the last hour.
It is 11 o'clock straight up, so we want to get you up to date in weather control. Brian Norcross has all the details in the new advisory. Brian.
All right, the news is good in the new advisory because the track is shifted to the south just slightly, but I don't want anybody to get off the hook because the deviation is a very, very slight deviation down to the south. So let's go ahead and take a look at what information we have here and show you what's going on. This is the radar back to 618. Now watch as it goes, and watch in the lower right corner of your screen. You can begin to see the actual center of the storm come into view right there at the southern end of Andros Island. Can you see it down there? And this mass of strong cells just to the left of the word Nassau there and approaching the Keys in Miami-Dade County, not that far offshore now. So that's going to be moving in, and that's very bad weather. So this storm is also moving on at a pretty good clip. So the bad weather will be arriving fairly early in the morning, and it'll be moving by the lower Keys by the late afternoon tomorrow in terms of the center. Now, here's the satellite picture, and watch that kind of mass of blues and purples near Great Exuma. And what you're going to see, you're going to see it expand during the day and then contract and then really expand here just in the last few hours this evening. Okay, here, watch. Here it goes. See, it expanded and it contracted, and then it really expands here this evening and takes on sort of a spiral shape. And that expansion of those blues and purples is generally an indication of a stronger storm, but the hurricane hunters are out there looking, and as soon as they find hurricane force winds, we'll hear from the National Hurricane Center. But the fact that the purples and reds and oranges are taking up a much larger area normally indicates just a stronger tropical system, and there's a pretty good chance it's a hurricane. The hurricane hunters just have to find those hurricane force winds. In any case, the Hurricane Center is indicating that they expect it to be a hurricane in the next few hours. Now, as far as the track and the center, there is where at 11 o'clock the Hurricane Center is locating the center of rotation. And if you notice, the track is made a bend to the left, and that's really that little bit of a change from being west-northwest to a little closer to west. That has pushed the track, the overall track, as it goes by the Keys, expected to go by a little tiny bit further south, which just increased the odds slightly that the storm center is not going to cross the Keys. And if that is indeed the case, that's very, very good news. Now, here are the numbers as of 11 o'clock, 23.3, 77.8, 70-mile-an-hour winds, so just below hurricane strength is indicated right now. And west-northwest winds, west-northwest movement at 14 miles an hour. The pressure down to 990 millibars, and that has been a 5-degree millibar drop since 5 o'clock this afternoon. So, in fact, while we're waiting to hear from Miami-Dade County, let's go out to the National Hurricane Center. Deputy Director Ed Rappaport is standing by. Ed, we've seen the pressure drop pretty significantly in the last 6 hours. The satellite presentation is certainly better, but the hurricane hunters have not found the hurricane force winds yet.
Not yet, but you're right. The hurricane hunters confirm what we were seeing with the satellite pictures and the radar as well, that the storm is better organized now, pressure down to 990 millibars. And I think it's just a matter of time, perhaps 3 to 6 hours before we see observations that tell us we've got a hurricane out there.
I mean, do you feel like it's that the hurricane, have the hurricane hunters gone through the center and really looked, or are they just beginning that process?
They're just beginning the process. They fly what's known as a figure 4 alpha pattern, as you know, Brian, and they're coming in, I believe, from the southeast and going to the northwest. And the strongest winds aren't going to be there. They're going to be up on this side. So it's going to take a while because they'll continue this pattern and then fly through the center again. And in about an hour or so is when they'll probably experience the strongest of the winds. And by then, the system may be a little stronger anyway. I think at that stage, we'll probably see hurricane conditions.
Now, this little bit of a jog to the left that the storm made seemed to have jogged your track to the left just ever so slightly, which obviously any move south of the Keys is good. Ed, I need to let you go because we need to go out to Miami-Dade County. All right, let's go ahead and make that switch now. Mayor Alvarez is speaking at the Miami-Dade County Emergency Operations Center.
We began feeling the storm winds and rain earlier this evening, and conditions are expected to deteriorate even further throughout the night. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you're safely indoors. The best place to be right now is at home and off the streets. Miami-Dade County remains under a hurricane warning and a flood watch. Many residents in Miami-Dade County have taken advantage of the 4 shelters opened earlier this evening. There are approximately 500 people staying at shelters throughout the county. As a reminder, Miami-Dade public schools will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday. All non-hurricane essential county employees do not have to report to work on Tuesday. Also a reminder, State Road 836 westbound between 87th Avenue and 107th Avenue will close if sustained winds reach 40 miles per hour. There will be no garbage pickup tomorrow. Damage assessment teams from the Department of Public Works will be out in the morning as soon as it's safe. We can expect downed trees and other debris, possible flooding and power outages. Please only call Florida Power and Light for emergencies like downed power lines. And the number is 1-800-4-OUTAGE, which is 1-800-468-8243. That's 1-800-468-8243. Use extreme caution when operating a portable generator. Generators should be operated outside. Stay away from downed lines, standing water, and debris. Car accidents are the main cause of injury after a hurricane. Only drive if absolutely necessary. Treat all intersections like a 4-way stop sign. And remember, only call 911 for life-threatening emergencies. If you have a non-emergency question, call our answer center by dialing 311. If you live in Broward and have questions about Miami-Dade County services, you can call 305-468-5900. To date, 311 has received more than 6,000 calls. Let me repeat, Tropical Storm Rita is a serious threat. Do not underestimate the storm. Be prepared, stay informed, stay calm, and most of all, be safe. Just a further note, we've been informed that Miami International Airport will cease operating when winds reach 50 miles per hour. To Spanish now.
Okay, that's Mayor Carlos Alvarez at the Miami-Dade County Office of Emergency Management saying that the county is ready for the storm. Everyone should be ready. And indeed, the bad weather, as we've seen on the radar, is just offshore. Now, let's go back to the numbers here, and I wanted to show you the future track. Again, the pressure down to 990 millibars as we're talking with Dr. Rappaport. That's a significant drop, but let's go ahead 270 miles east-southeast of Key West. Now, the future track, notice that most of the possible future tracks in the cone keep the storm south of the Keys. Still, there's a significant part of the cone that includes the Keys, but none of the cone now includes Miami-Dade County. So but the important thing to note here is it's significantly different if the center of the storm goes over the Keys. Over the Keys, you get a tremendous storm surge on the north side. If it misses the Keys, you get the storm surge on the south side of the Keys, the Atlantic side, which is still major. Think of Hurricane George back in 1998, but it is not of the just tremendous variety you get on the north side. So that's an improvement. Now, obviously, looking at that, you can look at that and say, okay, odds are in our favor that we're not going to get the worst of this, but still, the Keys stick well down into that future track, and the weather will be bad in the Keys. There isn't any question about that. Then on the storm goes into the Gulf of Mexico. National Hurricane Center thinking it will strengthen into a Category 3, possibly even a Category 4, and come ashore over in the northwest Gulf late in the week or early in the weekend. Texas or Louisiana looking like the best bet. It'll kind of curve to the north right at the end there, and exactly where that curve to the north occurs is going to have everything to do with who gets the worst of this, and it could be a very bad situation. The only change in the watches and warnings on the west coast of the state, hurricane warnings now in effect essentially from Everglades City on down to Cape Sable. The hurricane watches and warnings are very, very similar. Miami-Dade County is still under a warning, as is the Keys. Now, here's the steering and the rotation you see on the left side of the screen where that red is rotating around. That's high pressure there, and that's what's going to provide the westerly path for Rita. And that also, when a tropical system goes under an upper level high, and we see that kind of rotation, that's an environment that's very favorable for strengthening, and that's why as the storm moves through the straits, it's expected to continue the strengthening process and then even continue more in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's why the thinking is that on the east side of the Keys, in other words the upper Keys, as it comes by there early in the day tomorrow, probably is a Category 1, but perhaps a Category 2 as the storm goes by the west end of the Keys or the lower Keys later on in the afternoon, because there's deep warm water and the atmospheric conditions look like, if anything, they're going to improve as the storm moves on off to the west. So it's going to be a long day tomorrow. Everyone needs to be in their place secure and just wait this thing out, and let's hope it stays to the south, but no guarantees, as you have to say that a third of the future track or so still puts a very bad situation in the Keys with the eye going over the Keys. So we'll check back with you in a little bit, and David Bernard will have the South Florida forecast shortly.
Brian, thank you. Our reporters are already in place throughout South Florida, and one location very far from the storm's current location, but very much feeling the effects anyway, is Haulover Beach, where we have seen this kind of scene for the last several hours.
Robin Kish has been there throughout the day and joins us again live right now with the latest. And Robin, it really hasn't let up much there tonight.
It is a hold on to your hat kind of night here on Haulover Beach. The rain bands continue to push through, and with them they bring soaking rain, heavy winds that have actually lifted me at times off of my feet, lightning and thunder, and tonight the weather is only expected to get worse. At nightfall, strong squalls courtesy of Tropical Storm Rita swept on shore with driving rains and whipping winds that wouldn't quit. Earlier, the red flags warned bathers and surfers to stay out of the water because of rip currents and other dangerous conditions. Lifeguards here at Haulover Beach clocked out at 5 p.m. and don't expect to return Tuesday as weather conditions worsen. Linda Bitterman and her daughter came here from Aventura to take a look at Mother Nature's beautiful fury.
Originally from up north, so these storms are intriguing, although we're cautious with them. You know, we're ready. If we have to go anywhere, we're ready to go, and we're all gassed up and have all our supplies, and we're ready.
Across Collins Avenue at the Haulover Marine Center, employees worked feverishly throughout the day, boarding up and bringing in anything that wasn't bolted down.
We were told by the park office that we're under red alert, which means to bolt everything down and board up and get everything inside and ready to, you know, expect whatever comes.
Boaters weren't taking any chances either, lining up along the ramps and towing their vessels to dry land.
Get my boat out to protect my investment. We heard about the tropical storm warnings. Where we keep it behind my brother's house, it's just probably be okay, but I wouldn't want to take a chance.
And several hours ago, we saw a U.S. Coast Guard chopper flying north over the beach. We were told earlier that the Coast Guard will not be able to respond once the conditions get too bad out here. So hopefully boaters took heed of the warnings, brought their boats into port, or at least tied them down. Reporting live from Haulover Beach, Robin Kish, CBS 4 News.
Well, we see it happen almost everywhere. As soon as those outer bands start to move in, then people really get into high gear, and it's certainly been that kind of a day in the Bahamas.
In Nassau, where our Ted Scouten has spent the day, they thought they had dodged a bullet, and then when night fell, they weren't so sure. Right, Ted?
Right, Maggie, because tonight what happened is we started to get a big feeder band that came in. The wind started to pick up around 7 or so, and then for about the past hour, we've really been feeling a lot stronger winds, and the gusts have been pretty strong too. Certainly not hurricane force or anything, but a lot stronger than we had seen throughout the day. And what happened is as those winds increased, it certainly got people's attention quickly. Last-minute preparations as strong feeder bands from RITA blow into Nassau. This guy breaking all the rules, climbing up a tall ladder in the wind at the edge of a deck over the water to take down plastic coconuts. Good wind could send them flying.
And I'm trying to protect all the doors and windows because, as you could see here, the tide is getting high and also the wind. So we're trying to protect as much as possible as we can.
Kind of dangerous up there, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous, but you know, we got to do it.
Others in Nassau getting nervous too when the winds picked up. In some cases, boarding up with whatever's available. Now take a look at this one. This is a jewelry store. They put plywood in the windows, but then use duct tape to secure it. Not very secure. And then even worse, right around the corner here, take a look at this. This is cardboard in the window. Not much protection over here. This locksmith says throughout the day, some businesses prepared, but others waited.
Well, everyone's just getting their shutters put on the buildings and the businesses because they don't want any looters or damage to their property, you know, from trees and stuff blowing and signs and stuff blowing in the glass from the high winds.
As lightning flashes across the sky and heavy rain leaves some roads underwater, folks here hope RITA comes and goes without much fanfare. So now throughout the evening, as we said, the winds have been increasing here, especially in the past hour or so. They've been the heaviest that we've seen so far. We've also seen an awful lot of lightning up in the sky, all wrapping around as more feeder bands come into Nassau. We're live in Nassau. I'm Ted Scouten, CBS 4 News Tonight.
Ted, the storm is south of you, and Weather Control tells us you can expect this to be pretty steady for the next 6 or 8 hours. What are you hearing from the Bahamian Islands south of you?
From the island south of us in Abaco, what they're doing there is they're moving people, they're evacuating people who live on the southern end of the island, bringing them up to the northern end of the island because they feel that it's safer that way because the storm is moving right around the southern part of the island there. So they're getting them out of the low-lying areas and getting them up into the northern part of the island.
That's a good idea. Ted Scouten live in Nassau tonight. Thank you very much. Here in the state of Florida, the area of most concern is down in Key West, where the storm's effects could be felt the most.
About half of the people from Key West have evacuated, and many others in the Keys between Key West and the mainland. Let's go to Joanne Strader, standing by on Duval Street. Joanne.
Yes, Rob, as you see here on Duval Street, you see a few cars making their way down the street. You see many of the businesses are boarded up, but if you take a look right next to that, you'll see that there's still some that aren't, just like you see the folks that are still out and about. And even though there's a mandatory evacuation in place, there's still many people that did not take heed to the warnings. Glaring lights roll down Duval Street along with residents who refuse to evacuate for what could be a strong hurricane. And many have their reasons for staying put.
It's barely a hurricane still. And that's the fact. You can only go upon the facts.
Did you learn anything from Katrina and what happened in New Orleans and the fact that there are a lot of people that did not evacuate?
Absolutely, but it's not a Category 5, and you know it's moving pretty slow. And if it was, you know, moving at like let's say 8 miles an hour, like you know, it got bigger, then we'd leave.
But throughout Key West, many are preparing for the worst. Earlier, buses evacuated residents with special needs and those without transportation to FIU in Miami. The mayor extremely concerned about RITA.
We are encouraging our residents to take heed to the evacuation order and to evacuate. It's for their own personal safety as well as their families.
But there are those who refuse, even spray painting the names of past hurricanes that threatened the area but didn't hit hard on plywood that protect businesses. They're hoping RITA will have the same outcome.
We've been through this before, many times. Things are going to be okay. Everybody's got, you know, supplies and water and things ready to go. We're ready for this one.
And so is the city. The city is pleased that 50% of the residents here in Key West have evacuated. On an average, it's 30%. Reporting live here from Key West, Juwan Strader, CBS 4 News Tonight.
Juwan, you mentioned that those buses were taking out special needs people. After what we saw in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, I'm sure that included people in hospitals?
That is correct, Maggie. But as far as folks with maybe a disability or a handicap or whatever it may be, those are the folks that they wanted to make sure got the necessary transportation, and those are the ones they were concerned with most. As far as the hospitals are concerned, though, and just like the curfew and everything else in effect, they are still just holding down on some of the rules in place because they're waiting to see just how bad this thing picks up. Again, once the winds start to pick up at about 30 plus miles per hour, that's when they will put a curfew in effect, and that's when they will place a ban on all alcohol sales, because there's still, like tonight, the reason why you see folks out and about is because there's still a few businesses open.
All right,
back to you in the studio.
Juwan Strader live in Key West. Thanks, Juwan. We've been watching a steady stream of traffic coming out of the Keys, all the way from Key West, all the way up to Florida City, and at one point traffic was bumper to bumper in that area as people were getting out.
Evan Bacon saw some of that in Isla Mirada. Evan, you have some flooding now? Or is that, oh no, that's the water, okay. That's the beach.
No flooding yet, Maggie. This is the Atlantic Ocean and this beautiful pier that extends out from the Islander Resort here in Isla Mirada. Hard to believe that there is a huge hurricane brewing out there in the water, because if you look at these palm trees up ahead, you can see they're fluttering a little bit in the wind, but you know, they're not really taking a beating at this point. We get a few gusts every now and then. And as you look over at not the floodwaters, but the Atlantic Ocean, you can see that these waves are lapping ashore. No 3 to 4 foot swells that you sometimes see before a storm, the swells that the surfers like to go out in. So it's an interesting situation. It hasn't been that bad. We got 1 or 2 bands every now and then. Folks here in the Keys are basically taking it where either they hightail it out of town or they are battening down the hatches. As the sun sets over the middle Keys, the main highway out of town, US 1, is packed with people evacuating the area.
A lot of traffic and a lot of stopping.
Yeah, it was flowing steady until we hit this island, and now it's bumper to bumper.
Throughout the day, a majority of homeowners and business owners put shutters up, protecting their prized possessions. But not everybody is getting out of town.
We've got shutters up, we have all the necessary equipment, and I don't want anything to happen to my boat. It's better if I'm here and I can run over and check on in case the lines break, because I'm a charter boat captain. If I lose my boat, then I'm broke.
This is one of the few areas that are still open tonight, the Whistle Stop Lounge here in Isla Mirada. You can see that there are cars in the parking lot. Obviously, some folks have decided not to evacuate the area. And as I take you inside, you can see that the good times are still rolling here in Isla Mirada. The folks here at the Whistle Stop enjoying a nice last meal, some good cheer. And standing over here is Captain Tom Morris, the owner. Tom, you're one of the only businesses open.
Yes, that's right.
Why are you still open tonight?
We stay open because of the reason you see in here, Evan. It's the only place where locals have to go. It's the only place where they have to eat tonight. We watch them, we keep them reasonably sober, and we send them home if they get too drunk.
Now, how will you know how long to stay open?
We watch Brian Norcross on TV religiously, and when he says that we're going to get more than a bad tropical storm or even more than a Category 1, we'll close immediately, send everybody home.
But for some of the folks who decided to stay back and stick it out, some last-minute party provisions.
Pretty much they've been through this before and they're riding this one out again because, as you well know, the traffic headed north is pretty bad.
Actually, the traffic situation has improved greatly. About 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, that line of cars dwindled down, and right now, if anyone in the Keys hits the road and heads to Miami, they'll have no problem going the speed limit. It's completely open right now. So if you were thinking about it, have a nice cup of coffee, maybe head on up to Miami, because tomorrow could be hectic once again. Again, our best to the folks that decided to stick it out here. A good number of people, we believe, definitely in the Isla Mirada area, are staying in the area. So be safe. And we'll take it from there. We're live in Isla Mirada. Evan Bacon, CBS 4 News, tonight.
All right, Evan, thank you very much for that live report from Isla Mirada. You're watching a special edition of CBS 4 News at 11, tracking Tropical Storm Rita on this Monday night, which has much of South Florida under a hurricane warning or watch.
There's a live picture here from Haulover Beach, where the wind has really picked up. CBS 4 News tonight. I'll be right back.
877-7313 for more information.
And now we'd like to update you on county announcements that we're getting in this evening.
That's right. The entire Florida Keys Island chain is under a hurricane warning, as you know, and mandatory evacuation. All shelters, hospitals closed. So is the Key West Airport, and Key West High School is now being used as a shelter for the homeless.
Miami-Dade County is also under a hurricane warning. Now, if you have any county questions, you're being asked to call 311. That's this county's new phone service, or 305-468-5900. There is a mandatory evacuation for mobile homes and a voluntary evacuation for Zone A, which is the barrier islands. Also, City of Miami trash pickup has been canceled for tomorrow. Miami International Airport will close once winds reach 50 miles an hour.
Now, up in Broward, there is a tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch. There is a recommended evacuation for mobile homes. 3 shelters are open, including a pet-friendly shelter.
And all public schools in Monroe, Miami-Dade, and Broward counties are all closed tomorrow.
Well, we have been telling you about what's been going on in the Keys and various areas in South Florida. We now want to take you down to Key Largo, where Patricia Andrea was standing by live. Patricia?
Hi there, Tony and Julia. Actually, you know, just a couple minutes ago, I actually spoke with an employee here at the Marriott Key Largo, which is where we are going to be spending the night tonight. And he lives here, and he was telling me that a lot of his neighbors and a lot of Key Largo residents are really heeding this warning and the evacuation, the mandatory evacuation. He says that he hasn't seen the place shutter up and close out and people move out like this before. And of course, the reason behind that, he believes, as do many, because of Hurricane Katrina and everything that we saw not only here in South Florida a couple weeks ago, but of course the devastation in the Gulf area. So that is good news for officials here in Monroe County, that the people have been moving out in large part. But a little while ago, we were actually in Florida City. If we can roll that video, we saw a lot of cars, still the steady stream of traffic moving from the Keys up to the mainland in Miami-Dade County. It wasn't bumper to bumper, but there was still a steady flow there. And of course, a lot of businesses in Florida City had already closed up for the night early, so finding some kind of fast food, it took about 45 minutes for us in line to get our food at McDonald's, because it was just about the only restaurant open in Florida City. Again, the Walmart there, jam-packed with people, because as we saw with Katrina, RITA really came up quickly on us. So therefore, a lot of people stocking up, replenishing their supplies as is necessary. And as you can see back out here, the wind gusts have been coming throughout the evening. We haven't seen any kind of rain really, a little bit of drizzling earlier today up in Homestead, but down here in the Keys, it's just the waves lapping up here a little bit and the wind kicking up. So of course, we're going to be staying here throughout RITA to tell you all the latest. Back to you.
Patricia, thank you very much.
And of course, closer to home along Miami Beach, oftentimes we see people just coming out and enjoying the night. Not so much of that this evening on Miami Beach.
Sharon Stone is Sharon. Listen, Sharon, you know what? I want to make you Sharon Stone. I don't know how many times we have done this. You belong in the movies. So forgive me, please. Sharon Lawson is live on Miami Beach.
That's all right, Tony. I don't mind being called Sharon Stone. Out here right now, as the storm draws closer, we're noticing that the wind is definitely picking up. Still a pretty dry evening, but we're experiencing some sporadic rain showers. If you take a look out here, you'll see that the palm trees are blowing in the wind, but still a very pleasant, calm night. But of course, do not be fooled. As we have learned in the past, you can never underestimate the power of a storm. And a lot of the folks out here are doing just that. They're making sure that their folks and their family, their loved ones, their personal property are safe and secure. This is what they had to say about RITA coming here. What have you heard about RITA?
Well, I heard she was coming, but I don't see her.
You don't see her and you don't feel her right now?
No, not right now, but I do see the streets that are empty.
There is a voluntary evacuation for your area, right?
Correct.
But you're going to stay home.
Absolutely.
Tell me why.
I just like the excitement of being out here in the middle of nature, and I know that I'm going to be okay because I'm on the 18th floor, and my condo is partially facing the water and partially facing the city. So it's going to have to come around and then come directly into my place and say, I want you out of here. But otherwise, it's okay.
When you started watching and noticing that RITA was fast approaching, what were you thinking?
Well, it's time to take our friends out and show them the beach before it gets blown away. But you know, we experienced Katrina last time, and you know, like everyone else, there were no prior warnings that Miami would be hit bad, and you know, now we're taking it more seriously.
These people all flew in from out of the state, so they were all here at a hotel, and why not have them have a nice dinner at a beautiful gallery? We had a dinner party for Fidelity Investments. They all came in for a conference, so they were, you know, it was booked months and months ago, and luckily the weather held up, so we still hosted the event.
Back out live, we're noticing that the rain is starting to come at this hour, but for the most part, once again, a very pleasant evening, very calm for now. I'm dressed for the occasion. I have my rain boots on. I also have my hat, and I have my raincoat inside the car just in case. But we also found some folks out here, even though there's not a lot of activity out here. We found some folks over here, Dia and Eric. Eric is coming from Detroit. Dia lives here, and she's prepared. She says she has her storm boots on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about your boots. Those are very funky boots.
Yeah, I got them on the internet. They're from Amsterdam.
But you're prepared for the storm?
Of course.
And Eric, you're coming from Detroit. You tried to go home today, but of course your flight was canceled first, actually delayed first, and then canceled.
Correct. Now unfortunately I got stuck in Miami. It's not such a bad thing, so I get to hang out at Teasers in South Beach, so.
Is this the first time you've gone through a tropical storm?
Yes, it's the first storm. I'm enjoying it though.
You're enjoying
I
it?
have good company.
So you're not too concerned, not too worried?
No, not at all.
It's more exciting.
And Dia, you've prepared because, of course, you're used to this type of weather.
Yeah, I've been here for about a year already, and I've gone through like 6 hurricanes.
6 hurricanes. How have you fared through all of them?
Nothing was broken, no damage to me. A lot of my friends had their cars like smashed with trees and things, but nothing happened to me.
Well, you guys, I know that the rain is coming now, so we'll let you guys go inside and stay safe, okay? Be careful out here, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Dia and Eric. Eric's staying right now in Miami Beach because, of course, he's stranded, but not a bad place to be stranded. Once again, not a lot of activity going out here in South Beach. You'll notice on the streets a few cars coming along the way, and some folks just strolling, just enjoying the Mother Nature, right? What Mother Nature has in store. But for the most part, a lot of folks heeding the warnings, staying indoors, which they should do, off of the streets, because you never know what a storm can actually do. That's the latest out here live in Miami Beach. Sharon Lawson, NBC6. Back to you guys in the studio.
Sharon Lawson, thank you very much.
Weather update and
fashion
update. There you go.
Takes all kinds on the night before a tropical storm hits, doesn't it?
It does. We learn so much during these times.
We're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back with our continuing coverage of Tropical Storm Rita as you take another live look downtown Miami. This is around Bayside, around the AAA, and once again, you know, the winds are starting to pick up. Nothing serious yet, but the weather will begin to deteriorate as we go into the wee hours of the morning. The Magic City on this Monday night.
And welcome back as we take a live look from Key West tonight, where that area under a mandatory evacuation. But as you can see, there are plenty of people who have chosen to stay behind despite the official word to leave the island. Quite a few people who now will wait Tropical Storm Rita, possible storm surges that officials are very concerned could flood that island. But these folks have chosen to stay behind and face this storm head on.
You know, John Gerard always tells us that every storm has its own characteristics, especially what we take away from the storm. Make no mistake, though, the takeaway word as we have this storm approach us, John, right, is surge, surge, surge.
Yeah, that's right. You know, a lot of those folks there along, you know, in the lower Keys maybe just don't understand what a 5 to 10 foot storm surge would mean to that particular location, being as close to sea level as they are. So I got a feeling a lot of folks are going to be sitting in their second or third story rooms tomorrow, wondering just when they're going to be able to come downstairs again. That is just a dangerous place to be right now. A 5 to 10 foot storm surge. In addition to that, there's going to be some freshwater flooding because we're expecting about 5 to 10 inches of rain in that general area as well. Not to mention perhaps winds gusting over 100 miles an hour at some point tomorrow as it approaches the lower Keys, potentially as a Category 2 hurricane. So, you know, why people stay, I don't know. But, yeah, I think the bottom line on this one for the lower Keys is going to be storm surge, wind, and rain, all three combined. Weather Plus Viper radar is indicating a center of circulation that is trying to get better organized. The reconnaissance aircraft has been in the system, and aloft, it is about as well developed as it can possibly be, but all of those dynamics that go into making a hurricane just haven't translated down to the lower levels yet. So it's still classified as a tropical storm, but still in all, you can see some of those very, very heavy rain bands extending well out ahead of it. The actual system right now very close to the southern tip of Andros Island and still moving off to the west-northwest. Ahead of the main feeder bands are some scattered briefly heavy feeder bands, which we've been seeing off and on for the past 6 or 7 hours or so. You can see some of those extending way up into Palm Beach County and all the way down toward mainland Monroe County. On Weather Plus Doppler radar, we'll pinpoint a few of those extra heavy showers coming in, and most of those are now well inland across Palm Beach and Broward County. But we have a couple of other briefly heavy showers due to arrive across the immediate east coast of Broward, Miami-Dade County, and the Upper Keys. Fortunately, while folks are standing around, milling around in the lower Keys right now, fortunately, the weather across most of the Keys is actually pretty good right now. We expect that to deteriorate quickly, though, as we get into the day tomorrow. Here's our latest advisory, the 11 o'clock advisory on Tropical Storm Rita. The advisory has the center about 197 miles southeast of Key Largo. Now, keep in mind, we don't want you to focus on a point necessarily. That's important as to where the center of circulation goes. But what you really need to pay attention to is the wind field. And the tropical storm force winds extend out about 125 miles from the center. So the tropical storm conditions will arrive across the Upper Keys first and maybe Miami-Dade County and Broward as well by morning, and then conditions will worsen, especially the farther south you go during the day tomorrow. Right now, top winds are at 70 miles an hour. There's been a big burst of convection thunderstorms around the center, which translates into a strengthening tropical weather system. The pressure has dropped 5 millibars over the past 3 hours, so every indication is there as it moves across warm sea surface temperatures right now in the Florida Straits that this will continue to strengthen, and we will be looking at a Category 1 hurricane late tonight, early tomorrow morning, and then a Category 2 hurricane potentially as it heads toward the lower Keys by tomorrow afternoon. So between the early and late afternoon hours, early morning and late afternoon is when Rita will be making its closest approach to all of South Florida. That's when we'll see an increase in the rain bands, the squalls, the gusty winds. And again, it still looks like the worst will be to the south, mainly across the lower and middle Keys. That does not mean that we let our guard down across Broward and Miami-Dade County. We still have a hurricane warning for the Keys, hurricane warning in effect for Miami-Dade County, tropical storm warning in effect for Broward County. Even though it will not be a direct hit here like it was with Katrina, we're still going to be looking at the outside fringe effects of a strengthening hurricane, and that definitely is reason for concern. High pressure to the north, low pressure to the south is what will pretty much dictate the steering currents as far as Rita is concerned. Hurricane warning in effect now from Chokoloskee all the way down to the Dry Tortugas up to Golden Beach. From Golden Beach to Jupiter, it becomes a tropical storm warning. Here's what we can expect in Broward County if we were to summarize all of this. Hurricane watch in effect, winds of 40 to 50 miles an hour, storm surge of about 1 to 3 feet, and a couple of inches of rain, at least maybe 2 to 4 inches. In Miami-Dade County, it's a hurricane warning, 3 to 5 foot storm surge, winds over 60 miles an hour. Rainfall could exceed 5 inches. Flooding is likely, especially to the south. And the worst weather, as we've been telling you all day, will be in the Florida Keys, especially the lower Keys, where a hurricane warning is in effect. Winds in excess of 74 miles an hour. Rainfall could exceed 5 to 10 inches. Flooding is expected, and a storm surge mixed in there of 6 to 8 feet could do some damage to some of the infrastructure there on some of the roadways as well. 6 to 8 foot storm surge is a very powerful storm surge, and you do not want to be in the way of that. There's a flood watch in effect, water vapor loop indicating that heavy rain is on the way. Flood watch in effect for the Keys, as well as Miami-Dade and Broward County until 6 o'clock tomorrow. In the nutshell, we're looking at a very good chance of very bad weather tomorrow, all day long for everybody, worse to the south. And then the rain chance comes down, but only slowly Wednesday and Thursday, then back into the scattered range on the rainfall as we head toward Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is the latest from the Weather Center. Tony, Julia?
Thanks, John.
Well, many of you may have questions about what we can expect as the evening progresses and as the storm approaches. What about tomorrow once the storm has passed and we have cleanup situations to deal with?
Exactly, and a lot of people have been calling the NBC6 helpline, and it's still up and running. Joe Rose is up there. And Joe, what can you tell us about some of the calls you've been getting?
Tony and Julia, first of all, the hurricane helpline will be open about another 20 minutes. We'll reopen again at 5 a.m. in the morning. We'll have a full squad here ready to go and answer all your questions once again early in the morning if you have some concerns. Let's get everybody caught up. First of all, garbage pickup has been a big one. It is closed in Dade County, Broward County. Please check your city website. Some of them are coming in. As of right now, they're open, but they said that could change early in the morning according to how the weather is. The other one, of course, all post offices in South Florida District from Pompano Beach to Key West will be closed tomorrow. There will be no mail delivery at all tomorrow in South Florida, which is very important. We've had a lot of calls on that. That's pretty much been it. A lot of people wondering about the airports, MIA and Fort Lauderdale airports open as of right now. But again, you may want to check your carriers and, of course, the winds as they get close to 50 miles per hour. And that, of course, would mean they would close at that time. So we've had a lot of questions like that as we're just going to take a roll. All these people have been nice enough to donate their time and be part of it and answer questions for Telemundo as well as NBC6 here. And hopefully we'll be able to help. 954-622-6621 here at the Hurricane Helpline. Again, if you don't get to us tonight before 12 o'clock, we'll do it all again starting at 5 a.m. in the morning. We will be here for you. Tony and Julia, back to you.
Joe, thank you. You know, we've been talking about what's going on in Key West, but, you know, all the keys here will be impacted by the storm. And Willard Shepard earlier in the day from Marathon talked to the mayor of Marathon, and they're very pleased with how the evacuations are going there.
Well, he joins us now live, and Willard, we've seen people just evacuating, heeding that order. What's it like there at this hour tonight?
Well, Julia, you know, the traffic is starting to thin out now at this hour. The people that have made their decision that they're going to go ahead and leave, they pretty much have gone. We've talked to only a handful of people here throughout the course of the evening in our travels here in the vicinity of Marathon and in the city itself who are saying, you know, I don't think it's going to be that bad, or for reasons such as a commercial fisherman told us that he just has to be near his boat. He's got to be near his gear. That leaving and coming back is just too difficult for him from a professional point of view. And he said if it was a Category 3 or Category 4 storm, that he would go ahead and leave. Of course, emergency officials, they don't want to hear people saying things like that because as we have found out just very recently, these storms can change very quickly, and that could be a problem. Even the mayor here in Marathon said he was caught off guard by Katrina at 4 a.m. When one of the tornadoes spawned by the hurricane came through his backyard. But in a large part, people here did heed the warnings. We saw virtually all of the businesses have been closed, have been shut down. People leaving out earlier during the course of the day. Residents and also the tourists were evacuating in a very, very orderly manner. They were able to get their gasoline and their fuel. We didn't see any long lines down in the Keys. We did at the beginning of our adventures. We came down from Miami-Dade County, way down in South Dade, saw some long gas lines, but that was not the case here in the Keys, and nor did we see, even at this late hour, any accidents out there. Of course, that can certainly slow things down in the Keys. But I have to say, overall, because of, I think, in large part, Katrina, people are paying very, very close attention to what the sheriff, what the emergency preparedness officials are saying, and they are treating this storm with a very healthy respect, even though that latest track showed it just going a little bit further to the south. We see most people not taking any chances, and that's really what we want to see, and what all of the emergency preparedness officials tell us they want to see at all times. It looks like that message, you know, you pound people over the head long enough that they will get it. It looks like they are getting it tonight here in the Keys. Tony and Julia, back to you.
Well, thank you. I think the Katrina issue is a factor. I also think for Billy Wagner, who is from Monroe County EOC, who's a diehard, long-time conch. He has been doing this for many, many, many years, passionately asking all the people in the Keys to please leave. And I think that had an impact on a lot of the people leaving there today.
People definitely listening.
Tropical Storm Rita has put a halt also to a very aggressive plan to reopen large portions of New Orleans.
There is concern that Rita, should it head in that same direction, could breach patched up levees that are already damaged by Katrina and then reflood much of the city. Jay Gray has more.
We are taking Rita very, very seriously.
With the possibility that Rita could be on the way, Louisiana Governor Kathleen Blanco wants the people of her state to get away.
Prepare your family, prepare your house for the possibility of evacuation. It's never too early to make preparations.
Blanco's plea echoed a message from President Bush earlier in the day.
Let me give you a real concern that I think everybody ought to pay attention to, and that is this Tropical Storm Rita, which now looks like it's going to head out into the Gulf. and could track Katrina, or it could head further to the west. But nevertheless, there is deep concern about this storm causing more flooding in New Orleans.
We are suspending all re-entry into the city of New Orleans as of this moment.
After an aggressive plan to move more than a third of evacuated residents back into the city in the next week and a half, and talk of opening businesses in the historic French Quarter as soon as possible, RITA has changed Mayor Ray Nagin's mind.
If we have anything above 9 inches of rain and a 3-foot surge in any storm, we will once again have significant flooding.
Drainage pumps still aren't working to their full capacity. The levee is patched but still very suspect, and there's still no plan to get people out of the city. And that is another reason that the mayor says he is making his decision. He would like to see everyone out of this city by Wednesday, as thousands here again turn an eye toward the weather and hope RITA goes somewhere else. In New Orleans, Jay Gray, NBC News.
And in other news this evening, an Atlanta jury has convicted Butch Hinton for the murder of Shannon Melendi. The jury deliberated for 3 days before reaching a verdict based largely on circumstantial evidence. Melendi, a South Florida native, was attending Emory University when she disappeared in 1994. Her body has never been found. Authorities say Hinton was an umpire at a softball complex where Melendi also worked. He had been considered a suspect for years, but was not officially charged until last year. No word on when Hinton will be sentenced.
And 2 former Tyco executives were sentenced today to a maximum 25 years in prison for their roles in bilking the manufacturing and electronics company and trying to cover it up. The jury found former CEO Dennis Kozlowski and CFO Mark Schwartz cheated the company out of more than $600 million. The sentences are the latest in the government's crackdown on white-collar crime.
Putting people in jail for fraud, that's what really has an impact on cutting back corporate crime.
In June, Kozlowski and Schwartz were convicted on 22 charges, each of grand larceny, falsifying records, securities fraud, and conspiracy. And we continue to follow Tropical Storm Rita.
We will take a short break, and we'll be back with the latest on that storm's path, the track, and what it all means to all of us. Stay with us.
NBC6 Weather Plus Doppler Radar is brought to you by the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida.
Welcome back. Key West city officials have been really hitting the drumbeat since yesterday. Get out. We are going to make plans. You need to leave because we are in for what could be a major, major storm in terms of storm surge for this area.
Exactly. And most people have done that, but we are seeing that some people have stayed behind. Tom Yamis is in Key West tonight. Tom?
Good evening, Julia. Actually, we're starting to feel some of the wind gusts off Tropical Storm Rita. And as you can see just above me, the trees ahead on top of me are blowing a little bit more every minute now. We're joined right now by City Commissioner here in Key West, Tom Oosterhout. Now, Tom, the first question I have for you, why do you think 50% of your constituents did not want to evacuate?
Well, you know, the good thing is that 50% did. That's the highest number we've ever had evacuate. But a lot of the people are business owners here and members of the community, and they felt they wanted to stay and save and work together to make sure the island's okay after the storm. And they're very dedicated to our island. We have a strong sense of community here, and everybody bands together and works together, and our motto is one human family. So they all come together at events like this, especially at a time of stress like this, to save the island.
That said, a lot of the members of your family are here on Duval Street having a good time, and it seems a lot of the people we're talking to are intoxicated. Why do you think, even after Katrina, some people here just aren't taking the storm seriously?
They are taking it seriously. It's just their way of dealing with the stress at this point of the night is to have a couple of cocktails out here in Duval. And the bars are still open tonight because, as you can see, we don't have an urgent problem right now. And, you know, the people who feel they have a secure place to stay and they're not in a low-lying area and they don't feel threatened, they have chosen to stay. We recommend everybody leaves, but we can't make them. You can't drag people out of their houses. So anyway, I'm really proud of the people who are so dedicated to our little island.
Now, I understand you just got out of a meeting about an hour ago at the Emergency Operations Center, and there was a member of each branch of the military, police and fire officials. Just give me a couple of the quick highlights.
Well, the most impressive to me was that we've learned from recent terrible hurricanes, and there's a general already in place to run the National Guard reserves in case they need to bring in a huge rescue operation like they've had to do in other cities. And so we have that in place. In fact, that general's assistant is sleeping in our emergency operations center, ready to jump, and whenever he needs him, he's got a satellite phone, and he's on call for us. And
the Coast Guard also and the Boca Chica Air Base are going to be operating?
Yes, the Coast Guard has rescue helicopters ready, rescue personnel ready, and the air base here, Boca Chica Air Base on the other end of the island, is ready to handle transport planes and rescue planes if we need them following the storm. So all the emergency contingency operations are in place for this hurricane. There will be no gap or no time spent after the hurricane saying, why don't we have this, why don't we have that? They're all going to be ready to rock and roll when this storm is over and put this city back together as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Tom Oosterhout from the City Commission here in Key West. So it sounds like Key West is planning for the worst, and they do have plans in place. So hopefully, if this storm does hit, they have plans that are ready to go. Reporting live from Key West, I'm Tom Yamas. Now back to you.
Tom, thank you. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, and we can only hope for the best with what they're saying now in terms of storm surge. And the track is going to be vital here, because if they continue to track a little south, then they're only going to have to face one storm surge. If it wobbles a little bit more toward the north, we're talking about a storm surge not only from the Atlantic side, but then they're going to get a storm surge on the way back from Florida Bay, which could just be devastating to that area.
Well, that's why the people who have decided to go ahead and load up their belongings and move north have seemed to have made the right choice. But of course, we will all continue to watch and wait to see what RITA does and how our region fares. We'll take a quick break and we will be right back.